What's going on, guys? It's Hi with Upper Left USA, and I'm currently in Mexico right now. And for this video, I wanted to do a what's in my camera bag to show you what I brought along for this particular trip. So let's get started. First and foremost, this is the bag that I've chosen to bring all of my camera gear along with me on this particular trip. And this is the Lower Pro Tactic 450 AW. This Pro Tactic bag has essentially been my go-to camera bag for the last 3 years or so since it was introduced, I believe in 2015, around there. And like I said, I've been using it for pretty much everything, for traveling in the mountains, traveling internationally, domestic, on all occasions. Realistically, on any jobs that I've had photographically, I've used this bag to carry all of my camera gear. I would say that no camera bag is perfect, and this one by no means is perfect. I mean, it might be for you, but it definitely is not perfect for me. It's just that it's as close to perfect as it can get without me actually designing and manufacturing my own bag. So I really do enjoy this particular bag. Alright, so let's get into this bag. So for me personally, when I use this bag, I generally pack it from top to bottom for most important to least important, or the stuff that I use the most to kind of the accessories or just the stuff that's nice to have that I may or may not even use. Alright, starting from top to bottom, at the top of my camera bag is typically my main camera, or the camera that I would use the most. And for this particular trip, I've brought along only one digital camera, well, at least one quote-unquote professional camera, and that is the Sony a7R II that I'm currently filming with right now. Along with the Sony a7R II, I've brought along two Sony E-mount lenses. The first one is connected to the camera and is recording me right now. It is the Sony 16-35mm f4. The second lens that I have in my camera bag, and is really my go-to and my absolute favorite lens for the Sony E-mount, well, not just particularly this lens, but it's really the focal length, the 24-70 f2.8. It's really my favorite lens for any camera system, and whichever one that I've used in the past, I've always had to have a 24-70 f2.8, which I just personally consider the most practical and most versatile lens in my camera bag. As you can see, the Mexican sun is really shining right now, and I'm absolutely baking out here. So I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible. Moving to the other side of the top compartment of my camera bag, will conclude pretty much what I consider the important stuff and what I really need to really accomplish photography, or at least my particular style of photography. Up here I have my filters, and for this trip I've essentially brought along all the filters that I own. Well, not necessarily the small one, all the filters that I have for my 24-70 and filters that I can adapt to my various other lenses. First off, let's just talk about this small one. This is my Tiffin Variable ND filter. And variable ND filters are just nice to have, especially if you're shooting video in bright sunlight like this, which I'm obviously not using this filter right now because it's in my hand. But variable ND filters are nice because if you're shooting it out in bright sunlight, obviously you can crank down on just the right amount of light reduction that you need, and it allows you to use wider or larger apertures so you can get that narrow depth of field. This is also a great tool to have if you are shooting time lapses, and that's really why I've brought this along with me on this trip, because I'm really trying to do more time lapses and really get into that field. So when I shoot time lapses, I personally like to have a 1 second shutter, and that's kind of really hard when you're shooting in bright daylight. Even when you're shooting at, say, f22 or whatever your max smallest aperture on your lenses, that may not be enough in bright daylight to get a 1 second exposure because that's just really bright. So having a variable ND filter is really a godsend. Next is my Wine Country camera filter system. And if you've seen my review on this particular filter system, you know that it's pretty much what I consider to be the best, just because of the way it is designed and the package that it comes in. I would highly recommend you to watch that video because I've gone really more in depth with it and reviewed this particular system. So check out that video if you're interested in learning more about this particular item. But like I said, I just consider it to be the best from just fit and finish to the little fine details that this filter system provides. Along with the Wine Country camera filter system, I brought along my Wine Country camera Blackstone ND filters, which I own three of the only three that they make, I believe. It's the 0.3, 0.6, and 0.9 density filters, and it's essentially 3, 6, and 10 stop of light reduction. Moving down to the lower compartment of my bag, I did bring along one film camera for this particular trip, and that is my trusty Nikon N2020. Like I've said in previous videos, this isn't the best film camera in the world, but it just has a personal connection with me. I like the way that it feels in my hand and just the way that it shoots, I guess. It's just one of my favorite film cameras of all time. So along with my film camera, I've brought along 4 extra rolls of film. First off is Kodak T-Max 100, bulk rolled Kodak T-Max 400, Arista EDU 400, and last but not least, Kodak Pro 408. Alright, so the rest of this stuff is really just minor knickknacks and accessories that for photographic purposes I really don't even need. Some of them are really nice to have, but not absolutely necessary. So since I'm shooting with a Sony camera, I've brought along some shutter releases so that I can really remove the shutter away from the camera, so I can just plug this into the camera, press this button, and the shutter releases. That way if I'm doing a long exposure or just a really slow exposure with a long shutter speed, when you're pressing the button on the shutter release on the camera itself, obviously there is some movement and some vibration transferring from your finger to the shutter release itself. With this, you can just really separate it and really reduce that amount of vibration on the camera body. Alright, as you can see, I've had to relocate inside my room because when I was sitting outside on the balcony, there was a lot of thunder rumbling out there, so I didn't want to get washed out. So let's just continue on with this what's in my camera bag, and the next thing I want to talk about is the various mic systems that I've brought along with me. The first one held in this little black leatherette bag is the Tascam DR10L, and it is actually the one that I'm using right now. This system consists of 2 different parts, the mic that's attached to my shirt, and that's run down to the recorder. And this entire system is fairly small, smaller than my hand, so it fits inside of a pocket, or if you want to strap it to a belt strap, very easy. And this is a great system if you don't want to carry around a lot of bulk. So I typically use a lavalier mic system when I have to be separated from the camera, where I have to be farther than arm's reach for the most part. I like to use a lavalier mic because it provides me with a very consistent audio. Unless I'm really turning my head far away from the mic, side to side like this, you should be able to really clearly hear my voice. But in those situations where I'm really close to the camera, like when I'm vlogging and I'm just holding the camera right in front of my face, I like to use a shotgun mic. And this one in particular is the Rode Video Micro. I like to use this particular mic because it is fairly small. Well, it's a little bit big with this dead cat on it, but if you don't want to use that, take it off, and the mic, like I said, is very small. And I really like this system because it doesn't require any battery. Once you connect the 3.5mm cord to the camera itself powers the microphone. So this one is very convenient. Next, let's talk about an absolutely critical part of my camera bag, and it is actually this little black microfiber bag right here, because inside it holds all of my Sony NP-FW50 batteries. So if you kept up with this channel, you know that I actually don't own this A7R II and am just borrowing it. But when I owned the Sony Series 2 cameras, I would carry around 8 batteries at a time for long events. So if you're shooting like a wedding or just something where you're going all day, going through 4, 5, 6, it's fairly easy. Having 8 is just really that extra security and going above and beyond. So you gotta have a lot of these around. So in here I also have a couple rechargeable AAA batteries because this is what the Nikon N2020 currently takes, so I just had to bring some along. Last but not least is my camera strap, and for this trip and really every other trip that I've gone on recently, I've been using the Peak Design Slide Lite camera strap. So I've made a video in the past comparing the Slide Lite to the Peak Design Slide and the Peak Design Leech camera straps. And all 3 are great camera straps, but the Slide Lite just works the best for me in particular because the Slide is is thicker. It's just the width of the strap itself is thicker, so it's less comfortable on my neck. The leash is small, it's the most comfortable, but when you're carrying a big camera setup, it's just a little bit too heavy and just puts more stress than you actually want. So the Slide Lite is kind of just like that happy medium. And that's everything that's in my camera bag. If you're interested in anything that you've seen in this video, check out the links in the description below, where I'll lead you to the product description page and also to the various reviews that I've made for the various items. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below with any questions you may have. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.